Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday today. I'm doing the tea break chat a day late, and I'm so happy that you're here. So, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Lindsey Hall, and I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And what that means to me is that I love to help women deepen in their intimacy with themselves, first and foremost, and with others, own their power and their pleasure, and live a joyful life that they absolutely fucking love. So that is what I do. And every week I do these tea break chats where I come on and I talk about what's been going on in my life in the past week, just have a little chit chat, talk about the lessons that have come up, that kind of thing. And then I answer your questions that you guys have sent to me. So the reason today's is a day late is because I have been off on holiday for the past 5 days, and has it been incredible? Oh my goodness. So you're mostly just going to hear me gush about that today. And actually, I don't know if you guys can see it in the light, but I can see there's a line right here on my cheek that is from being sun-kissed. That's my sunglasses line. I did have sunscreen on, by the way, every day. I have SPF in my moisturizer and in my makeup. I only put on like a little bit of this thin coverage over the week while I was camping, but it still was SPF, but somehow I've managed to catch the sun with a nice line. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about SPF, although always wear your sunscreen. But no, so I have been away camping, and I am just blown away by how amazing it was. And I really, ahead of time, I was thinking how, it was so cool that I wasn't feeling like, oh, I need a break from life. It's been so long. And mind you, it has been a very long time since I've been on holiday, because it just has been. But I wasn't feeling like, oh, I just need to get away from it, unplug and have a break, because I really, really love my life, like a lot. That said, I went away on this camping holiday and it was insane. It just was so good. And so I went up to the Yorkshire Dales. So if you don't know the area, it's in the northwest England, and I live near the Peak District in England, which is a absolutely insanely gorgeous part of the world. We have very dramatic landscapes here. I just have to drive about 15 minutes from my house, and I'm in this gorgeous dramatic scenery. We have lots of edges, like cliff faces and dramatic rock formations and lush green valleys and trees, and it's gorgeous. So I already live really close to this, and if you guys follow my Instagram stories, you'll see sometimes I put up pictures because I do go out there a fair bit. I still go out there more, but so I'm used to being surrounded by natural beauty and taking it in and really observing it. But I'd never been to the Yorkshire Dales, which is a different part. It's about 2.5 hours, probably about 2.5 hours north of here. And it's a different national park. I was not prepared for it. It was for the beauty of it. It was very different. I thought it was going to be similar to the Peak District. I thought it was going to be kind of more the same. It's different. It is so big and expansive and open, and I don't even think I can describe it well, and even my pictures don't show it all that well. But whereas the peaks have more of these, the cliff edges and the lush valleys and green trees everywhere, the Dales also, it's not bleak. I was trying to describe it to my mom yesterday, and I told her there's not as many trees and it's more rocks, and it sounded all kind of bleak and horrible, and it's not. But it does have less trees, and it does have, instead of these cliff faces as such, it has more of just massive rolling hills, and it's so dramatic in a different way. And the peaks are, I guess, just more compact and a bit busier, whereas the Dales we'd be up on top of a hill, like a big hill. I'm not talking like a little hill, like a big hill, and I couldn't see a road anywhere. Everywhere I go in the peaks, you can see the roads. They're not highways by any means. The roads in the peaks are small and windy, and they're full of cyclists. But you can pretty much always see a road and hear some traffic, even if it's far away. None of which I had really noticed before or thought of as impeding my views at all, because it's not. But it was noticeable in the Yorkshire Dales that that wasn't there. It was just quiet. There were birds, and that was all I could hear. I couldn't see a road anywhere. And it just, excuse me, I think I've got some like pollen stuck in my throat from the past week. But it was so peaceful. It was the most peaceful I can remember feeling. And the teensy tiny cute little villages that are up there, again, they're not busy. Like in the Peak District, often the villages, especially on the weekends, especially in good weather, are like rammed full of people. Like it's crazy busy. But in the Dales, the villages, they were busy in like a, oh, this is nice, bustling little village kind of way. But they weren't full. They weren't like stressful and crowded. They were just gorgeous. And I think so a huge part of the past few days has been just breathing and relaxing. And like I said, I absolutely love my life. I wasn't feeling like I'm super stressed and need to get away from it. Like I'm not gonna lie, I've got a pretty sweet lifestyle going on right now. Like this whole coaching full-time business, it's pretty cool in terms of lifestyle. So I get to do a lot of what I want when I want to. I don't have a lot of stress in my life. I intentionally live so I don't have a lot of stress. But being up there was just such an exhale even from that. It was amazing. It also, I spent the entire time, I sounded like a broken record, just going, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, isn't this the best time of year to be here? All of the trees were in bloom. All the wildflowers were in bloom. The trees were covered in these tiny little white blossoms that it feels sort of late in spring for them to be out, but I think we did have quite a long winter this year. So the blossoms are out later in spring. So all the trees were covered in these white blossoms. The hill, there was fields and fields of tiny little buttercups and clovers and just small flowers because the wind is too much for there to be big flowers, but little flowers dotting the hillsides everywhere. And I just kept being like, oh, isn't this amazing? And that's the problem. I can't do those big deep breaths in. So being up on top of the hills and taking in the miles and miles and miles and miles of scenery, insanely mind-blowingly beautiful. And be like, this is the best ever. And then go into the woods and be like, oh, don't you just love the woods? I love being down there on the ground too. I went from up there and singing, I'm on top of the world, I'm on top of the world. I sang that a lot because I felt like I was on top of the world a lot. But then we go down into the trees, into the forest down by the riverbeds. And I was like, oh my gosh, you can totally see how all of the stories about fairies living in these forest glens and the fairy queens living here. And you can feel where those stories come from because it's just magical being down there on the forest floor by the riverbed. And I found waterfalls. Oh my gosh, I've never come across waterfalls in the wild in England. In fact, no, I don't think I've ever seen waterfalls like this anywhere. Not that they don't exist, but that I haven't found. So the first day out walking up this big hill, and I saw a waterfall off the trail to the left. I have to go explore that. And it was just insanely beautiful. And a big part of this trip was following my desires and following what feels good and not doing any shoulds or shouldn'ts or this makes sense or that doesn't make sense. I mean, even just going on this trip didn't make a lot of sense, to be totally honest. But I went with it because I knew it was going to feel really good. And boy, did it feel good. So this waterfall was the same thing saw this waterfall. It was off the path. There were some other people over there, but you had to walk over a broken wall to get there, which kind of is taboo out in the countryside. But I had to see the waterfall. I had to follow this desire. So I went to explore it, and it was so gorgeous. And just sat there for ages just watching it. There's something so mesmerizing and magical about waterfalls, I think. And actually the background on my phone right now is a waterfall because of that magical feeling it gives me. So sat there, and it's the sort of the combination of the wildness and the fierceness of it and the flowing, but also like the structure, because it's got one place to go. It's going down, and feeling that connection to the earth, and just and so then once it was like, oh my gosh, I love this waterfall so much, the next few days were also about waterfalls. So you know the TLC song, "Don't go chasing waterfalls." Forget that. I changed it to "Do go chasing waterfalls," because they're so amazing. Don't stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Go find new ones. Like, go find new waterfalls, new lakes, new places that you're not used to. It's so much fun. So I saw one of the waterfalls that we saw the second day then was apparently it's one of the biggest waterfalls in England. And they had a poster up saying that it was at one point voted the England's most romantic waterfall. And it was just, I don't think that was wrong, because it was nestled, like, you go deep into the forest and this beautiful, huge waterfall. And behind you is this, like, kind of magical, like, forest, glen, fairyland thing. And it was so much fun to go with what lights me up and what feels so fun. And it was really, the other thing that kind of kept coming up was, like I said, I sounded like a broken record, and I am right now too. Have I mentioned it was beautiful and pretty there? Because it was. But everywhere we went was like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. And the comment was, "You're really very easily pleased, aren't you?" Yes. Yes, I am very easily pleased. And isn't that fun? Like, that, I didn't always used to be this way. I don't think I was always like this, but there was very much a time in my life where I was a complainer. I would annoy myself by complaining so much. I am positive I annoyed other people. But I would complain and complain and complain. Mainly, I just wanted to complain until somebody acknowledged my complaint. So if people had acknowledged me, I would have stopped complaining sooner. I was like, I'm going to complain until somebody, like, pays me attention. Not a nice place to be for me or for anybody else. But so there was a time where, like, I didn't enjoy all these things at all. And now I'm so far the other way. Like, I am easily pleased. That does not mean I have low standards. Like, in terms of, I very much I know what I love. I have standards of how I want to be treated. I have standards of, like, I really appreciate beauty. But I am so easily pleased with this stuff because it's really fun to love everywhere you go, and to notice the beauty everywhere you are, and to really soak that in, and to be constantly open to being delighted and full of joy, and going, oh, what fun thing is going to be over here? Oh, what fun thing are we going to find here? It's such a fun way of being. And I also 100% do not believe in, like, toxic positivity where everything has to be awesome all the time. Like, you guys know I have hard times too, and I get sad about stuff, and sometimes I get grumpy for no reason, and I'll just be like, today is cold and a bit miserable back home, and I am not so loving that. I've been in, like, shorts and tank tops, and now I'm sitting here in long sleeves and a winter jumper again. So I don't think it has to be like good vibes only. No, but living in a way that you are open to the joy, to the delight, to seeing the beauty around you, to feeling the beauty around you, that is game changing. And it feels really, really good. And then another thing from this weekend, let me just check on timing. Ooh, I'll talk faster. Another really cool thing about this weekend has been the really leaning into the trust of, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to work out, and not stressing about stuff. Because again, past Lindsey was like a huge control freak, was huge, stressy about everything. And if things didn't go to plan, it would take me a long time to pivot. I'd be like, okay, I know it's going to be okay, but I really have to, it would take me a long time to pivot. And now I am so good at leaning into the trust that it's going to be okay. We're going to find a way. We don't need to panic. As an example, the first night, got to the campsite, went to go set up the tent, which was a new tent for me. I'd been given it years ago. I used to think I wanted to go camping, never did, but got given this tent, which was apparently a brand new tent. It had been opened and set up for like a raffle or something and then put back together. So it wasn't brand new in the box, but it had never been used camping. And I thought that all the stuff we needed would be in there, including pegs. Then we get to the campsite at 6 o'clock at night, roll out the tent, and there's no pegs inside. If you've ever put up a tent, you know that the pegs are fairly crucial to keeping it in place. So decided to just give it a go anyway, because all the shops were closed by this point. There was nowhere that we could go and buy pegs that night. Needed to wait until the next day, and took the approach of, this is going to be fine. We will put down heavy bags in the corners. We'll do, it's going to stick for one night. It wasn't windy. It wasn't raining. So no need to panic. It's going to be fine. In the process of putting it up, our neighbors next to us noticed that we were really struggling and said, it might be helpful to put pegs in first. We're like, yes, we know that. We just don't have any pegs. And they had extra and gave us a whole handful of pegs that we could then use to hold down our tent. And then the next day we went and bought some. And again, just trusting it's going to work out. There was no need to freak out about it. It was going to be fine. And it was fine. So it was also just a really cool practice, again, in the leaning into the trust that it's going to be okay. Everything is working out for me. Hello. And not having to stress out or to freak out or be like, or beat myself up because I hadn't checked ahead of time. And my mom had told me, make sure you put up the tent ahead of time, make sure you try it. And I was like, no, I don't have time. I'm not putting it up ahead of time. It'll be fine. And yes, it would have been better if I put it up ahead of time and found that there were no pegs. But also, it was fine that I didn't. There was no need to beat myself up for it. So that's a cool thing. Okay, in the interest of time, I could talk about this trip forever and ever and ever because it was so good. But in the interest of time, I am going to move on because I've got two really good questions. And the first question came to me directly as a result of this trip. So it's really good. I'll do this one next because it follows on quite well. Of how do I decide what I share online, what I share on social media, what I share online. And I love this question because it's an ongoing thing for me. I don't have a personal rule book that I follow. I don't have I will definitely share this and not that. And it's evolved over time and continues to evolve. I like to share a lot. So again, if you follow me on social media, if you're on my Instagram, Lindsey Hall Coaches, if you're on my Facebook, Lindsey Hall Coaches, you'll know that I do share a lot, specifically in my stories. So I put up a reasonable amount on posts, but the posts tend to be more businessy. And then my stories is where you see a lot of the behind the scenes of my life. And I share a lot there. And I like that. I enjoy sharing it. I enjoy the connection it builds with people watching. I enjoy I enjoy a lot of it. But I don't share everything on there. And deciding what to share is, like I said, an ongoing thing. And I don't share super private stuff. I don't share if it affects, excuse me, gotta get this camping pollen out of here. I don't share if it affects other people who specifically don't want to be shared. If I'm with anybody who says, I don't really want this online, fine, absolutely, totally respect your autonomy on that. There's some stuff that just feels too good to share sometimes. So sometimes I don't share, if I'm in the middle of some big hard stuff going on, some big conflict, whether it's conflict with other people or with myself, I don't always share when I'm in the middle of it. Sometimes I might say, I've got some hard stuff going on, here's how I'm dealing with it. Sometimes I might not even do that. Sometimes I might share afterwards saying, I had some hard stuff, here's what I did. Sometimes it just feels too good to share in the moment. I hold on to that stuff too. And in the same way, sometimes I like to process all the really good stuff and share that afterwards. I don't share usually when I'm when I'm seeing somebody and in a new relationship. I don't usually share that for several reasons. That's because it feels so good to me, so I'm holding on to it. But also because, again, that affects somebody else. So if I'm starting to date somebody, I don't want to be sharing their business all up online. Lots of people see this, that the person I'm dating often hasn't agreed to be part of my social media world. Yes, and I absolutely would ask first, but even still, that's not something that I want to do at early stages. Because then there's also, there's words. So sharing the person I'm dating, but then also, what about people I've dated in the past or future people I'm going to date? I don't want them thinking I come online and talk about them all the time, because how are they going to open up and be vulnerable to me if they think I'm going to put their business all up on the internet? So that's kind of not cool. I don't want that. I don't want, other people's exes and partners seeing things. So I don't share a lot about my love life on here. I share the lessons I take from it. I share things afterwards in hindsight of, I learned this lesson, and I'll share anonymously in that sense. But if it's going to be somebody affected in real time, that's when I don't share those things. So, but like I said, it is a constantly evolving thing, and things that I used to be comfortable sharing, I don't necessarily anymore. So I used to put my kids up a lot more often. These days, I'm not putting my kids up very much, if at all, because as my audience grows, there's other wider people seeing it, and I don't necessarily want to expose my kids to that. Also, things that I didn't used to share, now sometimes I do. So I didn't used to share anything at all about my dating life, whereas now I might share a little bit more of that in real time because I'm more comfortable with it. So it ebbs and flows and changes and evolves, as in everything in life. But that's sort of how I choose what I'm going to share or not. So I hope that was helpful. Then the other question that I had, this is a long one. The other question that I got this week was, do you need a break between relationships / how soon is too soon to start seeing somebody? And this question came to me particularly as a post-divorce question. So this can apply to all relationships, certainly, but I'm going to answer it in terms of just got divorced. Is it okay to go straight from, I'm splitting up with my husband, straight to a new partner, straight to a new relationship? Or do I need to have time for me in between? Is it a red flag if people go straight from marriage into dating? What were my thoughts on that? So I think there is no right or wrong answer here at all. And this comes down to the individual. It comes down to the work that you do on yourself. It comes down to the work that the other person does. I do think, and I don't usually like voicing things this black and white, but I'm going to. I do think that going straight from a marriage to a new relationship without doing any of your own work in there, that I think is problematic. That is going to likely lead to more issues down the line. However, that doesn't mean you necessarily need a big time block, because you can be doing that inner work while your marriage is still ending. That is quite common. It is quite common that your marriage is on the rocks and things are going on and you're getting therapy or coaching, excuse me, or doing your own work, even though you are still living with your partner, still, in a relationship of some sort, but you've been doing the work as it's been sort of wind down background. Very, very common there. Also, you can be doing the work when you're in a new relationship as well. So it doesn't have to be. For me, I took a break in between, but not everybody does, and that's okay. But I think, like I said, just diving straight from one relationship into another without doing the work at some point is likely to lead to making the same mistakes? Doing the same things. The same patterns will come up again and again if you don't stop and do something to disrupt them. Now, I liken this. So I took a break. So when I split up from my husband, I took 2 years really before I started dating again. I had a sort of a crazy thing we were doing with somebody that was really, really important to me and was a sort of pseudo pre-dating thing. I never know how to describe that period of my life. It was important, but also doesn't fit into any of the boxes. But for the most part, I took 2 years between marriage and entering the dating world. And for me, that was really crucial. I had a lot of stuff for me that I wanted to do, I wanted to discover, and it was really, really helpful. And then as I jumped into the dating world, more stuff keeps coming up because actually you can't do any of this. You can't do relationship work completely in isolation. Funnily enough, relationship work takes relationships. But I did really, really appreciate that long block of time. And when I go in between dating people, I often have a break in between as well where I can sort of process what I've learned and take what the lessons from that and do some more stuff on me. It's like integration time between relationships. And that's worked well for me. Also, other people, like I've got a really close friend who went straight from her marriage, which was, spent its own time where it was on the rocks. And then she went pretty quickly into dating somebody new. In fact, she was still living with her spouse when she started dating somebody new. They were separated. They were sleeping in separate bedrooms. They were separated for quite a long time, but logistically, sometimes it takes a while to get out of the house, all of that stuff, and started dating somebody new. And that's totally working for her. And I liken this to having kids. And there's no right or wrong age to have kids. So my sister had her first kid when she was 20 and was, pretty young. And she's then her kids will be out of the house pretty much by the time she's about 40-ish. And she had her own lessons and her own challenges in doing it that way and her own fun stuff. And that was the path that she took. I didn't have my first kid until I was 30. My kids won't be out of the house until I'm more like 50. And that had its own challenges and lessons and a different path. So being a fairly young mom, and then being an older mom, I know 30 is not old, but compared to 20, that 10-year gap of when you choose to have your kids, and people who will have their kids older than me, there's no right or wrong with any of that. They're just different paths, and different challenges will come up, and different, good things will be there too. So it's the same when it comes to dating post-divorce, of that whether you take a break in between like I did, or whether you go straight from one into dating like another friend of mine did, there's no right or wrong. We all have different challenges. She's having challenges of trying to like break relationship patterns from her spouse while trying to date somebody new. I had time to break the old patterns, but then haven't been able to practice the new things at the same time. They're just different. There is no right or wrong about it. I just really, 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 really strongly feel that doing that inner work is the important part. So you have to do that whole, you don't have to, but if you want to turn up your freaking light and turn on the babe energy and get the most out of the next relationship, it's very useful to do that inner work, to go inwards, to look at your stuff, to look at how you showed up in your past relationship, how the other person showed up, what you liked and didn't like, what you want to do differently next time, heal some of the wounds that are there. There's always going to be stuff because life, and really work on that sort of internal thing. That is going to make a huge difference. But whether you choose to do that well in relationship or well on your own, there is no right or wrong answer there. Just do the damn work. It doesn't matter when you do it, just do the damn work. That's what I have to say on that. So yeah, I think that's all I've got for you this week. Let me have a quick think. I can't think of anything else I want to add in. So I will leave it there. I will say that if you want to get in touch with me to talk about any of this more, leave a comment down below, send me a message. You can always do that. If you are watching on YouTube, you can come find my Instagram at Lindsey Hall Coaches. You can check out my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com. You can find all the ways to work with me on there. So I've currently got some classes up for sale that you can buy on my website about like blowjobs and self-pleasure and that kind of thing. The big thing I'm super excited about right now is my group program called Dirty Talk starts on Sunday. So if you're watching this like in the future, that won't apply. But if you're watching it right now, the group call starts on Sunday, the 4th of June for the group program. Dirty Talk is 4 weeks of calls with a group of women who want to talk about things that we don't always talk about in the sex stuff domain. So we talk about blowjobs and self-pleasure and dirty talk, and we have got one that's like open to the group to whatever they want to talk about, and it is my favorite thing that I offer right now. You can also do one-to-one coaching is always an option. I also have the Divorcee program to help support women through divorce process and dating afterwards. So if this dating question is intriguing you, I've got a dating program, and yeah, always with the one-to-one coaching available too. That's my favorite part. So send me a message, check out my website for any of that. Otherwise, I do these weekly tea break chats, so I'll be back here next week. I should be back on Wednesday like normal next week. I put up the question box for the Q&A on my Instagram on the Tuesday before. So send me a question if you've got one, or you can always email it to me or send me a message in advance. I think that's my whole spiel. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next week, I love you. Bye.